pre-election day,
Yeah, sure.
On this race. So let me just jump right into it by asking why you want this job.
Well, at 75, this wonderful life, and being in California for 50 years, all of a sudden I woke up about 15 months ago and turned TV on, and it was a dysfunctional Washington, and career politicians were snarky, and I tapped my wife on the shoulder, and she woke up, and she turned around and gave me a kiss on the cheek, and I said, honey, let's run for the U.S. Senate, because the Feinstein seat was open. And as any dutiful wife, she just kind of looked at me and turned over, and I thought, a few seconds later, she turned back and she said, aren't you a little young? And I said, well, let's have a little fun. Let's see what can happen. And now I announced on October 7th, and it's almost a year. We've made great strides in California. You know, it's a one-party state, and I'm a moderate Republican. And it's obviously a very narrow lane, but we've gotten Californians to stand up, and they said, Steve, listen, we're mad as hell. We don't want to take it anymore. We know you. We believe in you. And
but is that enough to overcome the demographics of the state?
Well, you know, I wish you would have called me and said, hey, remember, this is 800 miles north to south and 250 east to west. But over 50 years, I've been all over the state. And they know Steve Garvey, the ball player, and the success I've had, and then having taken that into the community and built businesses and been involved in charities like the Dream Center and MS and ALS and all those things. And now Steve Garvey 2.0, who's been to Washington many times. My mentor was Ronald Reagan. And I think it's time to get back to common sense and compassion, consensus building, and taking back California. I think that's the big thing.
Common sense and compassion and census building, people want more specifics.
Yeah. Well, the most specific thing is it's so fractionalized now. It's 180 degrees between parties. Nobody's working together for the good of the country. And I've said I never took the field for independents, Republicans, Democrats. I took the field for all the fans. And now I'm running for all the people. And my opponent can't say that. Nobody can really say that who's running for politics now. And what that means is, and I said, when I'm the next elected U.S. Senator, I'll go back and I will, in a relatively short amount of time, go to all 99 other senators, stick out my hand, and say, listen, let's work together for the good of our state and this country. And let's bring back civility, bring back a sense of duty. And it's amazing. People are standing up. They're tired of what's happening in California. You and I remember when this was the heartbeat of America, and it's not now. When people wanted to come here, and now they're standing, looking all around the country and saying, what's wrong with California?
So how does Steve Garvey fix that?
Well, it's the three compassion issues now of crime, it's the economy and inflation, and the border. We've got to tackle these things right away. We've got to get back to where we were 4 years ago when we did have a vivid economy. There was less crime in the streets, and there was a reasonable amount of immigrants coming to this country.
All right, so let's just go through a couple of those real quick. The border. And I know people can read on the website in great detail, but yeah. Steve Garvey's plan to secure the border is what, for example?
Is to secure the border. You know, everybody says, oh, close the border. It's not realistic because a number of men and women come across the border to work every day, so we have to respect that. We got transportation. But we've got to start vetting the people coming into this country that are illegal. We just need to reinforce the U.S. Border Patrol and ICE. We need to get more jurisprudence and be able to make decisions on these people, vet them more from when they come across the border. Let's get Remain in Mexico back again. Let's get tough again.
The economy.
Yeah.
Your plan to jumpstart the economy or to slow inflation, make things more affordable?
Well, when you think you can shut off gas and oil and this economy can continue, we found out that that's been a disaster. We've got to get back to the fundamentals, gas and oil. Is there climate change? Yes, but it was too rushed to judgment. We had to have EVs in 10 years. Let's get back to having the people have a voice in what they want to buy and how they want to live.
And you mentioned crime.
Existentially, the crime in the streets, take a look in Los Angeles. What's happening in Santa Monica, in Sunset, and all over.
But how do you impact that as a senator?
Well, what you do is it's an interesting federal position. You have a strong voice in California. You have a very strong influence on what happens around the country. But our sheriffs and police need reinforcements. They need investment in them, technology. I've done ride-alongs.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is I believe in our police and law enforcement and first responders. It's the DAs that need to step up, and they need to prosecute to the full extent of the law. And you can't have the idea of stealing $950 from a store and nothing's going to happen to you.
And then the big issue, of course, is homelessness. I know you've been studying this. You've been in Skid Row. You went to San Diego.
Yeah.
I mean, is there a federal role in fixing the homeless crisis?
Well, people say, what's one of the first things you do back in Washington? I call for a federal audit on the $20 billion that supposedly we spent in California on homelessness, and to have it increased by 15% last year. I mean, where's the money going? I mean, the big problem in America is oversight on key issues, compassionate issues. And that's why I said when I went to San Diego, the Alpha Project is a great example, Father Joe's Villages. And here in Los Angeles, it's the Dream Center. The Dream Center is a model for America on how you take people off the streets and you put dignity back in their hearts by working with, number one, their mental illness, number two, addiction, number three, in a secure environment that they can live. So they can go back, have a job, and feel like they're contributing to society.
So if you took a step back and you said for the average, the quote-unquote average Californian who may not follow politics closely, how would my life as an average Californian be different with a Garvey as a U.S. Senator versus a Schiff?
Well, you ask yourself, going back, is my life better or worse than it was 4 years ago? And it's categorically worse. It's like Reagan used to say, are you better off? Well, they're not. Pick a topic. What I would do is go back and, again, work with my constituents to get back to a vibrant capitalism, supply-side economics, where money starts to flow into the pockets of hardworking Californians. So in the morning when they get up, they're not forced to buy $10 worth of gas, but can afford 10 gallons worth of gas.
Adam Schiff might be saying the exact same thing.
Oh, he's not. He doesn't say that.
He says results, not rhetoric.
That's right. He says ideas. He has on his website 13 or 14 ideas. But that all adds up to $3 trillion in added debt. Over his 25 years, the debt increased $23 trillion. And I guarantee you, let's put a freeze on spending. Let's get our annual budget on time. Let's get back to this. Stop this frictionalism. And who are we running for? I'm running for the people of California, for all the people of California. So they know when I get up every day, I'll go to bat for them. I'll start working on these issues that affect their cost of living, their quality of life. And they know who I am. And you remember I took the field 7.5 years straight, 1,207 games, and I can put on a new, fresh business suit now and do the same thing.
So you could be the greatest candidate in the world, but because of the majority of Democrats in the state, the odds are still against you. How do you overcome that?
Well, somebody said it's been 35 years, and I said, well, we're due. I can overcome that. I think with my voice, and I've said I'll be a one-term senator. I'll get up every day, not to go out and run for a job in 6 years, but to get everything I possibly can get done in a short amount of time. And I remember the third debate, the person said, well, you'll be a lame duck. I said, do you really think Steve Garvey will be a lame duck as a U.S. Senator from California? Yeah. I'll have a voice. And my campaign's nationally. I mean, not only in California, but we've got 160,000 donors now, small dollar donors, who believe they're investing in Steve Garvey, want to be part of Team Garvey. And I think that's what we need to do, get back to we instead of me in politics. Career politicians have strangled this state and the country.
Last couple of questions. There's been a lot written about President Trump. You haven't asked for his endorsement. He hasn't given it. You said you're running a different kind of campaign. Is that even worth getting into? Is that relevant?
It's a Steve Garvey campaign. People know how I feel about faith and family and freedom. It's a narrow path in California. I need to focus on the people. The only endorsements I want are the police and the sheriffs and the first responders. I can't worry about any other race in America because this may be the single toughest race in America, being a U.S. Senator who's conservative. And, we've made great strides. And people say, oh, you're behind by 20% and so forth. Well, let's take a look about a week before the election and see where I am then. I haven't lost much in my life, and I don't intend to lose. I didn't get into this because it was easy, but because it's tough.
I didn't get a chance to ask you about the abortion issue. I've heard you been asked about this before. I understand what your position is, but can you just restate that for us? I mean, you said you would not vote for a federal ban. You'd support what the people of California want, even though whatever your own personal views might be.
Yeah, I think if you're an elected official, it's important to remember the people you're representing. And abortion was voted on by the people. It's a bill constitutionally, and I will pledge to support their voice. I'm Catholic. I believe in life. I believe in life at conception. But I think we all have our views and opinions. The most important thing is we continue to talk about these issues and not polarize. And I think that's the big problem now. Everything is polarized so much. Somebody with common sense that wants to sit down and listen, like I do, I think I'm a good listener, can bring people together.
But what is the basic? What's the difference between you and Adam Schiff, if you had to sum it up?
Well, 25 years of failed policy is only known for one thing, and that's impeachment of Donald Trump. And when you're so fixated on one person, you're not worrying about your constituents, you're not worrying about this country. And the difference is we're two different people. When we stand next to each other, people of California will have a choice to make, and who is going to be best for their future. And I think when it's all said and done, they're going to say Steve Garvey will represent all the people of California.
Steve Garvey 2.0 is defined as what?
Well, I'm 75. I've had this great life, and there's been a number of chapters, and I'd like to think I learned from each one of those chapters. It's made me a better man, a better father, a better Christian, a better husband. And I think when people say, what are your qualifications? I said, I'm a man for all the people.
And what have you learned since you declared in October about being a candidate, being a politician?
Well, I knew it was tough. And I'm an only child, played all those games consecutively, get up every day even at 75. And it's such a great challenge. It's such a great challenge. That I think the end justifies the means. How we've gone back about this, the team I've put together, I've always put great teams together and we've won championships. When it's all said and done, it's going to be almost as much about how we did this as to what we're doing. And as the next elected U.S. Senator, as a conservative, I think it'll start to change the dynamics of California. Since when the primary came about, we've got 8 more conservatives that are in the general that would have not been there without my involvement. All 58 counties have increased registration more than any time in history. So those things I take a lot of pride in.
Anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I think if you were to say, like you did, what's the toughest part of this? It's the realization that you have to have political courage. I mean, you got to step up in situations that aren't easy. They aren't easy to define. But if you use that common sense and getting back to your faith, there's been such an attack on Judeo-Christian ideas and values that we've got to get back to that as foundation. And when I get up every day, I use that as my first step in going out and reaching the people.
You excited?
I am. It's going to be very interesting. Because you can't look at the polls. I mean, we always knew after the primary, Schiff and I were literally tied, and I beat him by 300,000 votes in the temporary seat. But we knew there'd be an aggregate of votes because of the disparity in registered voters would be 20% down. But I think once the polls start getting serious, the second week in October, you'll start to see strides being made. And there are a lot of people that are very, very quiet in the state. They don't want to use their voice. They're afraid to use their voice. They're afraid to be attacked. They're afraid to be woked. But when the time comes now about their future, the future of their family and children, as to who they want to represent them, I think they're going to make the right choice, and that'll be me.
So you have substance. It's not just rhetoric.
Oh, you have to have substance now. You can't just talk about a position. You have to be able to tell them how you're going to do this. And also you have to talk about who you are now. What do you want to do? I don't owe anybody anything. I'm a first time. I'm a rookie. My sophomore year is going to start October 11th. But I want to do, at this point in my life, and this wonderful life, is to represent the people of California, this state I know and love, and the people I love.
All right, sir. Well said.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, good.